As we close the book on 2019, it's hard to believe we're about to begin a new decade.
Yeah, it just rolled right around the corner there. Ed Henry has a look back at some of the biggest events making news in the 2010s.
Dozens of major protests over hot-button issues, the rise of smartphones and social media, and an election result no one saw coming. We're looking back at the biggest stories of the decade. The island nation of Haiti rocked by a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. More than 200,000 people killed in the natural disaster. A landmark decision from the Supreme Court in the Citizens United case, paving the way for corporations to fund and influence political campaigns. A major political victory for President Barack Obama, signing the Affordable Care Act into law, also known as Obamacare. Apple releases the first iPad, one of the most popular gadgets of the decade. The Deepwater Horizon explosion, an environmental disaster on a BP oil drilling rig that led to years of cleanup efforts. NBA star LeBron James announced he'd be joining friends Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh with the Miami Heat to form a super team in a televised announcement known simply as The Decision. Instagram debuts as the go-to social media app for sharing photos, inspiring others like Snapchat and Pinterest. Ride-sharing apps also gaining popularity. Tech giants Uber and Lyft challenging traditional cab services for how we all get around. A massive earthquake devastates Japan. The magnitude 8.9 quake unleashing a devastating tsunami. Britain's Prince William marries Kate Middleton at Westminster Abbey in London. Nearly 2 billion people watching the televised ceremony. Ajoria quits Casey Anthony of charges she killed her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee. President Obama announcing U.S. Special Forces had killed Osama bin Laden, the suspected ringleader behind the 9/11 terror attacks. New York and New Jersey faced the brunt of Superstorm Sandy, flooding streets and putting parts of New York City in the dark while causing an estimated $70 billion in damages. President Obama winning a second term as president, defeating his Republican challenger, Mitt Romney. A gunman opens fire at Sandy Hook Elementary in Connecticut. The senseless tragedy leaving 20 first graders and 6 educators dead. Pope Benedict becomes the first pope to voluntarily resign in almost 600 years, leading to the election of Pope Francis, the first South American pontiff to lead the Catholic Church. Tragedy at the Boston Marathon. 2 pressure cooker bombs exploding near the finish line. It killed 3 people and injured more than 250 others. A not guilty verdict for George Zimmerman in the fatal shooting of Trayvon Martin. It sparked protests that would develop into the Black Lives Matter movement. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 mysteriously vanishing off radar. The aircraft carrying 239 passengers and crew simply disappeared overnight. Islamic State grabs a major foothold in Iraq and Syria, taking control of the cities of Mosul and Raqqa, the terrorist group quickly becoming the primary target of American forces in the region. The fatal shooting of Michael Brown by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. It led to several days of riots and reignited protests against police brutality. A sad loss for the entertainment world after beloved actor and comedian Robin Williams took his own life. American Pharoah soars to first place at the Belmont Stakes, becoming the first horse in 37 years to win the Triple Crown. The Supreme Court issuing a groundbreaking civil rights ruling, a 5-4 decision that legalized same-sex marriage all across America. Pope Francis makes a historic visit to the U.S., millions turning out to see the pontiff, who became the first ever to address a joint session of Congress. Music legend Prince found dead at his Minnesota estate. An autopsy later revealing the singer died of a fentanyl overdose. A shooter opening fire at a gay nightclub in Orlando, killing 49 people. NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick taking a knee during the national anthem, sparking a nationwide protest and debate over police brutality and the right to protest. The Billy Goat curse finally broken as the Chicago Cubs take home their first World Series title in more than a century. An election outcome few saw coming. as wildcard candidate Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton in a major political upset. Donald J. Trump sworn in as the nation's 45th president. And just one day later, hundreds of thousands taking part in the D.C. Women's March to protest his election. A major mix-up at the Academy Awards, as La La Land is mistakenly announced as the Oscar winner for Best Picture. That award ultimately going to Moonlight. Thousands traveled near and far to catch a glimpse of the first coast-to-coast total solar eclipse in nearly a century. Terrifying scene in Las Vegas. A gunman opening fire on a country music concert from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Casino. 58 people killed in that massacre. Movie producer Harvey Weinstein, the first to be named as one of several major players accused of sexual harassment, sparking a nationwide discussion that would become known as the Me Too movement. The Philadelphia Eagles, led by a backup quarterback and energized by an amazing trick play, knock off the vaunted New England Patriots to win the franchise's first ever Super Bowl. 17 students and staff killed at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida after a former student opened fire inside the school. A month later, thousands joined the March for Our Lives protest in D.C., calling on Washington to take action to reform gun laws. Britain's Prince Harry tying the knot with actress Meghan Markle, the first American to marry into the British royalty. The nomination of Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court sparking controversy, as the embattled judge faced accusations of sexual assault during his confirmation hearing, but ultimately was confirmed to the High Court. Special counsel Robert Mueller releasing his highly anticipated report on Russian interference in the 2016 election, arresting 8 Americans connected to the Trump campaign or administration, but stopping short of charging the president with any crimes and finding no collusion. Avengers Endgame drew superhero fans to the big screen, becoming the highest-grossing film in history, the worldwide box office net of nearly $2.8 billion. The U.S. women's national soccer team taking home the World Cup, their 4th in a row. The House voting to impeach President Trump on charges of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress.